Hey, I'm Nathan Lundy.
I'm Joe Capehart.
And welcome to Mevo Live, a show where we answer all your hard-hitting questions, tell you about Mevo products, and how to use them a little bit better in your productions. And with me, I've got Joe, as he just said. So Joe, what do you do here?
So I'm the technical specialist here. I handle support tickets, building articles using any common questions or reports. If there's any bug reports, it's my job to make sure that we can recreate it, collect as much information, populate our articles with that information. That way you have everything you need to navigate your way around Mevo. And then I let the engineers know, that way they can come up with a solution if there is actually a problem.
Exactly. Great help to everyone on the team for sure. And with us we also have Andrew, our video director.
Hey everybody, I am the video director here. I push all the buttons and I make these guys talk about really amazing products here. And I'm also doing that while I'm speaking. So you can see sometimes I'm trying to be fancy and not look at the buttons and push them, and they don't work sometimes. So we've got a really great show. Nate, why don't you tell them what it's all about today?
Yeah, so let's run through our production really quick. So I think we've got a little story from Joe. It's Joe story time, Joe Mevo story time.
Let's do it.
And we're going to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday, and it actually segues perfectly into our topic for the day. Which is cool.
It really does. So it's crazy how this actually happened. If you were watching yesterday, or if you weren't and you caught the VOD, you'll notice that there was some glitching or video tearing or some video drops. If you didn't notice, that's because Andrew's doing such a great job actually switching around and doing a little fire drill while we're live to make and mitigate some of those things. Now, the reason that this happened was because all of our cameras, except maybe one, was running wirelessly. Now, that is not something we recommend any of our users doing. So today, we made sure that we hardwired everything using a power over Ethernet adapter. And let's talk about all of the cameras that we're actually using. Today we're going to be using all Mevo starts except one Mevo Plus. The camera in front of me is going to be a Mevo start. The camera over here that's covering both me and Nathan is also a Mevo start. We have a camera directly for Nathan. That is also a Mevo start. We have Andrew's camera that's mounted on a Mevo table stand. That is also a Mevo start. We have the overhead shot so you can see all the cool gadgets and our Mevo Plus rolling here. Also a Mevo start. And last but not least, we have a Mevo Plus back on a Mevo Boost that is also running via Ethernet to get that wide shot to see everything that's happening on the set.
Exactly. So for today's show, we've got a few things for you all lined up. And I think to start out with, we're going to be starting out with a little video about a little behind the scenes about how we created the PoE adapter, who did it, what the team's like, what the process is like, and then again, more about why we made this feature and why it's a product that's perfect for Mevo Start. And actually can be used in other ways too, for computers and other things, crazy enough. But yeah, really excited to show you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and something you might not know is that this product's actually like one of a kind. There's not many, if any, that does what this actually does. So our engineers really set the mark high on this one. So I believe Andrew has a video that he's going to bring up and talk about it.
Oh, thanks, y'all. So yeah, let's talk about today's show a little bit. Let's put up this bad boy. So we have a new graphic that was made by Dan, who so graciously put this together.
Shout out to Dan.
Shout out Dan. Hi, Dan. Definitely watching. He's in the comments. Say hi. So we have accessories highlight. Oh, that's misspelled. Cool. Thanks, Dan. Is the Ethernet power adapter, and then we have, of course. So that's the main crux of the show. We're really going to hit this over the head here because it really is such a powerhouse and allows us to put this show together and hopefully way more seamlessly. There's a little fires that we put out yesterday. So, and then we're going to end with the user spotlight as always and put in some question and answer. Please populate all of those comments in the Facebook group. And then without further ado, let me pull this down. This is Scott, who's the head of electrical engineering here. And I have to constantly think about that because he's just head of EE in his Slack. Thanks, Scott, for talking to us about how he developed the PoE. He is here in our Brooklyn office. We put them together maybe 20 feet, 25 feet away. This is what it took to put the PoE adapter together. Hope you enjoy.
So PoE stands for Power over Ethernet. It's an international standard that allows equipment to send both power and data over a common Ethernet cable. You could use PoE at, for example, when you want to mount your Mevo at a fixed location and you want to simplify your cabling by using just one cable, or at a setup where you just want, again, the simplicity of providing both Ethernet and power using that one common cable. So you can think of it in two areas. One is the power and the other one is the data portion of this device. So for the power section, we take high voltage coming in from PoE, typically 37 to 57 volts, and convert that down to 5 volts. And we use a isolated DC to DC converter. I see a bunch of other equipment that we tear down during R&D phase that they skipped isolation. So we do that in our design to make sure that it's safe for users. So that's the power section. And for the data section, we use a Ethernet to USB chipset that allows Mevo to see the Ethernet network via the USB ports. All right, so the PoE adapter, from the first product, I guess, idealization to finally having it shipped to customers, we first thought about the product in June of 2019, and we first ship our first units in June of this year, 2020. So I'll show you some pictures here. We see some initial concepts of the PoE adapter, and in this concept, we try to follow the same pill-shaped form of the Mevo, and we realized that it's a little too big, went through a couple iterations, and in the next slide, you could see some 3D prints of the current form factor. So you can see the external device and also the internal circuit boards. The following slide, you can see a pretty early prototypes of the electronics inside. So we went through a couple phases of testing and hardware iterations. We get to the next slide where we presented during CES, and this one you probably noticed that it's a pigtail design. And the reason behind this decision was to include a cable so customers could use it out of the box. We also realized that many cables, USB-C cables on the market, are made differently, and some of them don't follow the spec. So that's why we wanted to include the cable. But quickly, we also realized this pigtail design puts weight on the USB-C port on the Mevo. Then we decided to change the design again during the iteration that will include a long USB-C cable instead of a pigtail. That way we don't put as much weight on the back of the Mevo. So again, next slide, you can see one of the pre-production version of the circuit boards. And then once we finalize all the circuits, hardware testing, mechanical and plastic housing, we went into production here in our Brooklyn operation, where the whole team kind of jumped in together and built and tested products and shipped them out to customers. And next slide, you can see one of our R&D, senior R&D engineer, Rich, here during PCB assembly and testing. And then finally, the product is packaged and ready for shipping. So you can buy it directly from us, mevo.com, obviously, and we have a few retailers like Amazon, B&H, Guitar Center. You can find them on our website.
Now, that was awesome. I don't know about you. Thanks, Scott, for covering all of that. I don't know about you all, but I love it when you actually get to see what these engineers really do. So we get used to talking to these guys every day, and when they come and talk to me about some of these things, I seem so lost. So when they actually get together and they put a video together like this and talk about the topics that they do and talk about how they're doing it and explain it. It's really cool to really just dig into their brains and see what they're doing. It's really neat how creative and smart they really are. Now, we do see all of the questions that are in the chat, so please keep those coming. We're going to jump in and stay with the POE topic. Once we're done with the POE, we'll get into your questions, so definitely keep them coming, and we'll go from there. So we talked about how it was made. We have one right here in front of you, or in front of us, so we can show you exactly how it works. So without further ado, let's just jump right in and show you how simple it is to actually connect one of these to a Mevo Start. So conveniently, I have a Cat6 cable here right under the desk. So we're going to go ahead and plug this directly in to the PoE adapter. Now, the PoE adapter does have some icons on it to tell you which side is for the Ethernet and which side needs to go to the camera to keep things as simple as possible. And then now once you actually have that connected, you're going to take a USB-C to USB-C and take that into the camera itself. Now you can see in the app on the card it says Mevo Hotspot, but you'll notice once I plug this in, that's going to update and you'll see it switch to Ethernet.
Yeah, and this process does take a couple of seconds depending on where you are in the app because it needs to refresh, but as you can see it connected pretty quickly here. And this mobile device that we've got sitting here is actually connected to the router that we're hardlined into with our PoE adapter here. And so now you'll see it's just instantly available and we can just go ahead and connect to it. So pretty cool. The power adapter does come with its own little right angle USB to USB-C cable. So you can just plug that right in. No need to purchase or use the other USB-C to USB-A cable for this process. And you can see here, we've got our beautiful shot.
Yeah, and it's super easy, as you can see. There's really not another product out there like this, as we were talking about. But if you don't have a switch or a modem or a router that's PoE enabled, they still have an option for you. It just takes an additional cable. So you would just use your normal USB-A to USB-C cable that comes with your Mevo Start, and you would just put it in the same side as the Ethernet. It actually has a port here for the power. So if your Ethernet cable is not capable of providing the power, then you can still provide power separately and still use the power over Ethernet adapter and get that Ethernet connection that we recommend you use for stability purposes.
Exactly. And hidden little feature here, this actually works with a laptop as well. We've tested it with some Mac computers and some other USB-C compatible computers. So not only is it just a standard in general for Ethernet and PoE conversion to data and power, but for our camera, but it actually is just a standard in general that could technically be used for other things. Maybe we don't recommend it for your everyday use, but just showing that the functionality is actually there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a small package that has a big punch to it. So definitely hardwire if you have an option. The power over Ethernet is going to give you the most stability that you can ask for. And I mean, we recommend it for everyone. As you can see, compared to yesterday and today, that power over Ethernet is making all of the difference.
Yeah, and there's actually one other thing that could be very useful to you in this use case. Say you have it mounted on a ceiling or somewhere where it's not easily accessible, but you want to have the ability to turn it on and off. You can use the PoE adapter to basically turn the camera on and off. And I'll show you in the app here. There's a setting if you go to the main gear wheel, the cog wheel, as Joe likes to say.
It's the cog wheel.
You head down to the Mevo settings, and then there is an option here that says power on off using USB cable. So what this will do is it'll actually say turn this camera on and off. As you remove power, it'll power the device down after 10 seconds. And when you then re-add power, say your Ethernet switch with PoE down at like your main headquarters there, you can plug that in and it'll automatically trigger Mevo to turn on. So just kind of cool little hidden feature you can use if it's way up like high mounted on a ceiling or somewhere else.
Yeah, and what's great about that is it really gives you a lot of flexibility opposed to traditional USB-C Ethernet adapters, because you're not really going to be able to find a 100-foot USB-C cable, and if you do, it's going to cost you a lump sum of money. So, I mean, we just picked up a spool of 500-foot of Cat6 cable, and we didn't even break $100. So, I mean, you could definitely run Cat6 cable or Ethernet cable as long as you need to, and it's going to give you that functionality that you wish you could get from just a traditional USB-C cable. So
Yeah, and I think a couple people are asking questions about maybe what switch to use for PoE and which device. We just went to Amazon and purchased a like $75 or $85 PoE switch, like Netgear. It's only like a 4-port switch, but if you've only got 1 or 2 cameras, then that's kind of all you need. And so what we did is our workflow was to take our normal switch that we have set up for all the rest of our production that doesn't need PoE, and we took a single little Ethernet cable right out of that and into our PoE switch that powered the rest of our Mevos. So it was really easy because we have one switch dedicated right here that powers up all the local cameras here, and then we've got a switch across the room that plugs in all the rest of the devices like our computers and mobile devices. So pretty easy workflow for the most part, and now we have only one power source needed rather than needing a whole power strip with like 10 plugs plugged into it.
yeah, I mean, if we had a power cable for each one of these and Ethernet, we're looking at another 6 or 7 cables.
Yeah.
And like you said, a power strip. And the last thing you need is a whole lot of cables in the way. I mean, it's a tripping hazard, it's a fire hazard. There's a lot of different things you definitely need to consider when it comes to running more cables. So if you have the option to eliminate cables, now watch when I say eliminate cables, I don't mean go wireless. I mean, if you have an option to use less cables for the same stability, you should definitely do it. Now, if you have no choice and you need to go wireless, the Mevo is going to do great for you. Like I said, it just depends on your environment. If you're in an environment like this where you're running 20 to 30 cameras, streams constantly, you really don't want to compete with that with bandwidth and interference with Bluetooth and things like that.
And I think I just have to really spotlight Joe's ambition, I guess, this morning. Like, he walked in with a cup of coffee and this spool of Cat 6 and was just like, all right, we got to fix this. And we rigged up 6 PoEs? 6?
Yeah, I mean,
6
that
PoEs.
doesn't count all the cables that I butchered.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a master, but I'm getting there. Progression is the name of the game.
Yeah, so definitely, you know, we preach it to build your own. It's much cheaper. Crimp your own, put on the ends, and you can have custom cables done pretty well. I think that kind of leads us into a good question and answer. You guys ready?
Oh, so
Let's-
ready.
let's jump into it.
Come on.
All right, so first up is StreamBiz with a Z. Will Mevo ever be able to stream from Instagram? Joe, I feel like you got
great
a good answer
question.
for this.
So I do, actually. So the issue with this is Instagram's terms of service does not allow third-party applications, which would be Mevo, to connect to it. So there are some services out there that offer it. Unfortunately, Mevo will not be able to do that unless Facebook/Instagram enables that. And once they do, we'll be more than happy to rush and try to get you that. But if that never happens, unfortunately, we can't introduce it because it would be breaking Instagram's terms of service. And the last thing you want to do is lose your account for trying to do something like that. And we definitely don't want to be contributing to that. So unfortunately, it's not an option right now.
All right, next question is from our loyal favorite, YSDC. I'd be interested in a full name. Maybe put in a comment one time.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We really want to know who you are.
Yeah. What is the minimum in-focus distance for the Mevo Start? Any suggestions for macro? Yeah, I think, Nate, you've got this one.
Oh,
and
no.
then I'm going to try and sneak in and show you how we do it, because we've done it.
We have. We can show you a little tidbit for that. So I believe the minimum focal distance is 1 meter. So I think about 3 feet is where the camera will focus. But as I'm saying that, I'm looking at a camera that is definitely not 3 feet away. So I think the best course of action is probably get you an answer after the fact. We can go ask the team and get that exact detail for you. But there is basically an infinite focus on the camera. So there's a minimum distance that you can read. And then from there on, it's an infinite focus. And I can find that out and get that information back to you. Oh, and I think Andrew,
Ooh,
are
you
you
ready?
to show it to us?
So this is, it's going to be a little blurry, but this is macro. Let me grab a start.
And this is very hacked together, let's
Yeah.
admit. This is a hacked together way of doing this.
Oh,
but it's
that's-
also a very simple way of doing it. So we can get some pretty crazy, very close-up shots. as you can see
And
from
I'm going to
this.
show you how I do this. And he's right. It is a hack. Maybe that's what we should name this. Mevo Start Hacks. And maybe not a pro recommended setup, but we've got just a tiny little magnifying glass.
And I think this was off our EE's team, some of their gear for looking at circuitry on a circuit board, and I think we just pulled it off, or their magnifying glasses.
Yeah,
and-
it was screwed onto a little helmet that like kind of Iron Man down, and I unscrewed it and we taped it on. So it works, and it actually looks pretty decent. No one yelled at us yet. So YSDC, that's your answer. Tiny little magnifying glass, and I even looked up. You can buy this size, almost this exact same thing. I think there's like $7 on Amazon for 10 or 15. It's a giant pack, and that's definitely in the cart and on the way. All right, let's see, Benjamin. When will beta get ability for external audio with iOS systems?
It probably means the multicam beta?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm assuming so. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I know for Android you can do this, but isn't it true that you can technically set it up in the normal app and then use the same setting? It's taking the audio signal
Yeah, exactly.
that's
So
from
whatever
the
you set
normal
up
app.
in the app, yeah, we'll just carry over into the multicam app, and then you can adjust only the main level though, whatever is set up. But we should actually probably test that out and see for ourselves, like
Yeah.
if you can connect a Mevo mic and if that stays connected through the process or not.
Now,
a good
and
question.
the thing about it is though, it will get this feature where you'll be able to control all your audio. Like
Yeah, exactly.
the solution we're talking about is what we've had to do just to get it to work now, but the beta is not in the phase where all the audio settings are there. But once beta does get there, you're going to have all the levels and all the options to handle inputs, outputs, and all of that. So the answer for that is yes, it's coming,
Yeah.
but you should be able to actually control it in the main Mevo app now and see that reflect in the beta app. But we'll confirm after the show, but if you want to go ahead and give that a shot, that should, I believe that's going to work for you in the short term.
Yeah, and kind of related to a few of the multicam, I noticed someone in the comments was asking about having kind of scoreboards in the multicam app. And again, along with those features too, always send them our way, we'll send them to the team. But most of the app features that you see in Mevo, you'll also see in the multicam app as well. So you just kind of have to be patient with us. We're trying to make sure that the main mechanics of the app are working with your camera and multiple cameras. And then we'll be slowly adding all those standard Mevo features, plus expanding. We'll be adding new features that you don't have in the current app, for sure.
I'm excited for that.
All right, next question from Tracy Jane Comer. I own a PoE adapter and it has worked great, but this takes up the USB port where USB audio would also go. Can a hub of some type be used to allow both Ethernet and USB audio? That's really difficult to read with a second delay in my ear.
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself. I
was
stumbled
good.
through it. I like slowed down. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah,
But,
just slow down
you know,
a little bit as you
stumbled-
read.
I landed it, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, yes, you can. That said, we haven't tested like many hubs, so I'm going to say that there's probably a caveat to the fact that some hubs may work and some hubs may not work, but technically, yes. It's a standard USB host device on Mevo Start, so technically you could use a Mevo or a USB-C hub and have multiple USB-C connections, or USB-A connections even for that matter, and connect your Ethernet and connect audio at the same time. And it should work no problem. We've seen a couple people in the Facebook group playing around with it and it working fine, but we haven't tested it here with a set of specific hubs and can't say that it's going to work for like every hub that you buy on the market. But I would say give it a shot, why not? If you need USB audio and the Ethernet, go for it.
Yeah, and that goes for, I mean, even just that kind of mentality or the method, I guess, has been that way since the Boost, and even the Mevo Plus and Mevo First Gen. The USB ports, the micro USB ports, they've always allowed external hubs to be attached. But once again, it really just depends. You kind of have to fiddle around and see which hubs are going to work and which ones aren't. Unfortunately, we haven't created a list that's going to, we don't have a list yet. So,
yeah.
I mean,
maybe that's something we should do. Maybe
Yeah.
we should get a couple hubs that we recommend, order them and give them a shot and see what we kind of results we get.
Yeah, so definitely stick around, and if we end up doing that, which it sounds like we are, I mean, he's the man with the plan, so if we actually make that happen, I'm sure we'll be posting the article on our Facebook groups.
Great. I mean, this is why we take these questions, right? It's to better serve the community. I've said this before, but we make products for all of you. So if you need something, we try and figure out ways to give that to you. I love USB audio. I think it's fantastic that it goes straight into the Mevo, and I hadn't thought of that problem yet, actually, because we go 3.5 in from our mixer. So really interesting question, Tracy. All right, Jan. Let's see, Jan, how about a split screen option? Example, 2 frames sharing on the output stream. Well, we do that through a third party. We're using Livestream Studio, and we can do picture-in-picture through it.
You can show them your screen. Didn't you have that set up? You can show the screen and just give them an idea of what that looks like in the third-party software.
Yeah, one sec. Let me set that up.
Yeah, and quick thing, YSDC says his name is Paul McLean, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And I'm very excited that we got a name for you, YSDC. Paul, great to see you, buddy.
Paul.
Thanks for watching all our shows, throwing down some good questions. Keep it up. And it looks like you run a YouTube UK museum-related videos that we can see under Museum-Wise. So I'm definitely going to take a look. Thanks for catching our show.
Ooh.
And so this is an example. We have a video looping in the background, and we have 2 video streams going into 2 different boxes, and I can actually switch between the different boxes in case we need to. Maybe go to the overhead, and now I'm really just showing off, but you know, so Livestream Studio, are there any other third parties that could, I mean, OBS, I think you guys, this is your domain.
Yeah, like vMix, Wirecast, Ecamm. I think Ecamm can. I haven't really jumped too much into it.
It definitely can.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of options out there to accomplish that. As far as in-app options with the Mevo app or the multicam beta app, those aren't doing picture-in-picture where you can do 2 different shots like this. At this time, doesn't mean that it's not something we're not considering. It's definitely something that has been brought up to us a few times, and as soon as we, progress with the beta app, that's something we can definitely revisit moving forward.
Oh man, this is a good question. Another that I hadn't thought about. Sorry, what was his name? I just heard it. Paul. Paul, can the PoE adapter, Ethernet adapter, also be powered from an external USB battery?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You should definitely be able to do that. Same, you would be able to power even your Mevo Start off of an external battery like that if you needed more juice. And I mean, the Mevo is not going to be able to tell any different, and neither will the PoE. So as long as it's getting power from somewhere, it's going to work.
All right, we've got Kenneth Stokes. Do the Ethernet power adapter do what the Mevo Plus 1 does?
The closest product we have from the Mevo Plus or the Mevo first gen would be the Mevo Boost. That would be the closest, I guess the equivalent for those 2 generations. It does not give power over Ethernet. However, it does have an Ethernet port and the micro USB to power it, and it acts as a battery pack in itself. So,
yeah, it has an 8-hour battery, but unfortunately, I doubt you can find one of these. If you don't have one already, you're probably going to have a rough go at trying to find one, but maybe you can.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely check them, see if you can find a used one, but I definitely know finding a new one's going to be rather hard. But the Mevo Boost would be the equivalent of the Ethernet power adapter.
And this one's for Joe, because he was showing off before the stream. He literally was doing one of these right before practicing. And let's see if Blake can throw you off. Can you read this question?
Oh yeah, I already got it before it even showed up.
Yeah, you got this? Are you kidding me?
Oh man.
All right, going to you.
You gave him too much of a heads
here we
up.
go. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Sorry, that's all I've got.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. I've done lots of videos for Mevo these days, so the tongue twisters, I feel like I've gotten them down, but I'm sure someone's going to challenge me and prove me wrong in the near future. So it's coming, I'm sure.
All right, and last question. We've got Paul. Did I forget his name?
No, right. Nailed it.
Nailed it. Hi, Paul.
Third time's
I'm
a charm.
sorry, you're my favorite person. Tried the wireless webcam software into OBS today. Love OBS, that's awesome. Works straight off the bat. I'm really liking my Mevo Start, one of the best pieces of podcast-related equipment I've used in the past 16 years. I couldn't agree more. It's amazing for podcasting and streaming all sorts of different events and really whatever you're looking for. That's just a really great comment. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah, that's awesome. I know personally, I mean, I've been wanting to find a reason to even start a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like, what could I talk about that people would want to listen? And whether it's a podcast, whether it's live or recorded. I mean, I've got this equipment and I just can't think of a topic.
Well, now we have it. Mevo Live.
I'm here.
Now we just come and now we talk about the cameras themselves.
There we go.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a throwback. When I was a user, and that's what I used the Mevo for, was
exactly.
to talk about the Mevo.
Exactly.
But no, we're so glad that you're using it and it's working great for you. I mean, the webcam mode was definitely something that everyone has asked for, and our engineers made it happen. So definitely let us know what you're using it for, and if we can make it better. Because if we can, then we're going to do our best to try to do it.
Yep, exactly. And a quick shout out to the EE team. They're a small group. There's only a handful of them that do a lot of the hardware aspects of these products that they make, and they do a killer job. They are working harder than all of us put together, I'm sure. They're under the gun all the time, and they do a great job. They crank these out, and they work wonderfully.
That's why I'm always so surprised when I go over there and I bug them with a question, and I'm like, hey, how does this work? Completely unrelated to maybe even one of our products. I'll be like, hey, if I wanted to do this, how could I do it? And they're always so happy to help, and they're really a great bunch. They're just very bright minds, and we're lucky to have them.
We are.
And I'm just going to jump in. We got actually an answer from them while the show is recording. Someone asked minimum focus distance, and they said half meter, 1.5
meter.
feet.
Yep, 1.5 feet.
Technically.
Awesome.
But may vary to around 2 feet. But also always check. This looks pretty good. I think this is about 2 feet.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Even while we're in this show, they're still working. They're watching our show, getting you the answers, and then feeding them to us. It's amazing.
No delays on future things, I mean, if you guys are watching the show, then you're ahead of schedule. That's all I've got to say.
Cool. Well, from me, thank you all for watching. As always, put your comments and questions inside of the Facebook or wherever you're watching, YouTube or any of the groups, and we'll put them in the show. And then I froze for a second. I was like, wait, what do we do with them? We'll put them in the show, and we'll talk about them tomorrow. And as always, thanks for watching, and like, subscribe, and give us feature requests. Put more comments in there, please.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you all for tuning in. Second show of the week. We've got one more tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can check us out on our Facebook, facebook.com/Mevo Camera, youtube.com/Mevo Camera. Also, if you have any customer support questions or something we didn't get to get into, definitely send us a ticket at help.mevo.com, and myself, Nathan, or Will would be happy to help. And I'll see you all tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow as well. Thanks for joining our little show here at Mevo, and we're really excited to give you these insights into the company, ways you can use the camera, and hopefully answer some of your great questions. So we will see you tomorrow, same time, same place.
See you guys.